All right, so introduction to Plato and the Bible, 250. We're going to go over the syllabus together a little bit, and then in the second hour, we're going to introduce the class. Okay, so this particular class actually, I have narrowed the focus to Hebrew wisdom literature, although I will be talking periodically about contrasting it to Greek literature. So the classicists among us, the Platonists among us, will still be hearing about Plato, Aristotle, and so forth, because I will be periodically contrasting Hebrew thought with Greek thought, right? This is one of the main impulses of the class. But we will be focusing on Hebrew wisdom literature, mainly the Hebrew Bible. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a gist right now of how I'm going to do this and what texts I'm going to focus on, what will be the focus of the class. So when you think of the Hebrew Bible, most of us think about, patriarchy, male-dominated religion, spirituality, male God, and so forth, right? So this is true, right? This is true that the Hebrew Bible is mostly, the culture there is mostly patriarchal, male-centered, and so forth. But what this class is going to do is show how there are actually within the Hebrew Bible other voices, right? And these are not studied very often. They're not observed very often. They're not noticed very often, mostly because the readership of the Bible has been for centuries a male readership, right? So there's actually a whole subculture in the Hebrew Bible which is a feminine subculture and which has a very, very different approach to spirituality, to God, to what it means to be human, and so forth. And so we will be actually focusing in this class on this feminine subculture in the Hebrew Bible, which is why I have entitled the class The Texts from the Mother's House, right? So we will be, in this class, leaving the father's house, which is the traditional place where we have been learning about the Bible for centuries, right? For centuries, we have been sitting in the Father's house, learning about God, learning about spirituality in a very male-oriented way. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's a lot to learn in the Father's house, right? I myself learned most of my Hebrew Bible in the Father's house, literally, since it is my father who taught me the Hebrew Bible in Hebrew and so forth, right? So this is a really important aspect of the Hebrew Bible. But what I'm going to be doing in this class is leading you into the mother's house. And in this particular house, we are going to discover a completely new way to think about God, to think about spirituality, to think about gender relations, to think about human identity, and so forth. So these are the lesser known texts. These are the subversive texts. These are the rebellious texts, the non-conforming texts, the non-institutionalized religion texts, right? It's a very different approach, and that's what we'll be doing. So some of the books we'll be studying, which in my view belong in the mother's house, are the books of Genesis, the book of Job, the book of Ecclesiastes, the book of Ruth, the Song of Songs, and we will finish with the Gospel of John. All of these texts, I will be arguing over and over again in the class that they actually belong to an alternative spirituality. They have a more feminine approach to God, to spirituality, and they belong in the mother's house, right? So that's the gist of the class, just so you have an idea, so you know where you are. And I want to reassure, right, my Greek leaning students, right, in the class, we will of course be doing quite a bit of contrast, right, between the Hebrew thought and Greek thought, since especially when we study the book of Genesis, right? Okay, any questions so far on what I said that you need a clarification on before we get into the workload and so forth? Anybody having an issue? Okay, no, all right, so let's continue. Okay, so if you have your syllabus, you will see first main important thing, attendance. So it's very important, right? This particular class actually, I know we think that, studying the Bible is easy because, we're used to it being, kind of watered down and spoon-fed in our churches, right? But actually this particular class is quite difficult, right? The text we will be studying, we will be going, are actually quite complex, right? The texts we'll be studying are difficult texts. We will be also going into the Hebrew, I mean, and you don't have to know Hebrew to follow, right? I'm going to break it down. But, we are going into some of these aspects. So this is an upper level class um, for which you need to be, really ready, available, present in the class. I had a student last semester who was in his car during the whole class. And guess what? He failed the class, right? So you don't want to be in your car. You don't want to be, distracted. This is a difficult class. So you want to be fully present and also available for each one of the lectures, which are taking place every day, right? Also, please, you are required to turn on your cameras during class so that I can have an audience, right? I don't want to be talking to myself. Some professors, they don't care, right? They're with their PowerPoint and they're just looking at that. But me, I actually feed off of you. So if you're not there, nothing's going to come out of me, right? So I teach in a very interactive way. I really feed off of your energy. I have to see your faces. So that, and this actually helps me give you more, right? So it's very important that I see you as I'm teaching. Good, that's the first thing. Any issues with attendance? Anybody want to come out clean right now? That has an issue with this? Janakopoulos, go ahead.
I don't have any issues with attendance, but I remember you were saying how we get taught from like the man's perspective, and my dad has a really nice perspective on this because he says that it's funny he says it, but he goes, Christ was the first feminist because he made Panaya, the mother of Christ, the highest saint in our church. She's above everybody else in terms of glory, honor, and grace. And so I just wanted to point that out because I think a lot of people forget that, and it's really important.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, when you read the Gospels, it's framed by women, right? You have Mary, who is the first one to really receive a revelation. And at the end of Jesus's life, you have Mary Magdalene, who has the first revelation of Jesus's resurrection. But so we do have, and the women are extremely present in the gospel. So you're absolutely right. Jesus was the first feminist, and we will be talking about that, right? So which is why, in my view, the gospels belong in the mother's house. They are in a continuation of Hebrew wisdom literature since they were written by Hebrews, right? Even though it was written in Greek, it's still the Hebrew. These are still Jews who are writing the text. They are thinking in Hebrew. They have the Hebraic background, and they are thinking in this on the level of the mother's house, right? Jan Kopoulos, something to add?
Yeah, most of the parables and the stories are actually of women interacting with Christ.
Yeah.
Of course there are men, but most of them are actually women.
Excellent.
So it's like it really brings them to light, especially in a time that was for mostly men. I mean, women weren't even respected; they couldn't even talk in public, stuff like that. So it was like really bringing them to our level. I remember when you said in Job, you know, um, when his daughters got names, it elevated their status to equal men. It's like the same thing. So
Exactly.
the Bible.
And we'll be talking about one of these encounters when we do the Gospel of John, which is with a Samaritan woman, and we're going to see some very interesting things in the way that Jesus addresses her. It's very interesting. So I'm saving it for you for later. Okay, excellent. Good. So, all right, next assignment. This is going to be a daily assignment. So every time we meet, you have to do this. This is called the reading assignment. This is basically after you've read the material, right? Hopefully you all have bought or found online a Bible, right? You just need a Bible, and you do need a whole Bible in the sense that we are doing the Gospel of John, right? Which is in the Christian Bible. So you can have a Hebrew Bible. Most of you are Christians anyway, so just buy like a Christian Bible which has everything, right? That'll be enough. So yes, so each time you read the text, right, you have the assignments here, you have all the chapters to read each time on the syllabus. If you see, right, you have the date, and then you have the chapter that you have to read. So for example, tomorrow you have to read Genesis 1 and 2, right? So each time you have a chapter to read, you have a reading assignment to do. Reading assignment is very simple. It's one page, single spaced, 4 paragraphs. And the first 2 paragraphs, I want you to explore any questions you have about the text. Now, this is very important because, especially when it comes to studying the Bible, because the Bible is often written in a way where the meaning is hidden. So I want to talk a little bit about that because most of you don't know this, right? Since most of us are coming from a Christian background where everything seems very simple, right? In the Christian context, we are told, right, the Bible tells us so, or the Bible is clear, right? There's these expressions that are heard in the churches that, everything is clear and it's written, therefore it is, right? So this is actually missing what I would call the different layers of the Hebrew Bible, right? So I want to talk a little bit about 4 layers that go deeper and deeper into the text. So the Bible is actually not just a surface book. It's not a clear book. It actually has deeper layers. So I'm going to introduce you right now to these 4 layers. This is fundamental to the way we'll be reading. So I'm going to use some Hebrew terminology and I will explain. The first layer is the pshat. The second is the remez. I will explain in a bit. The third is the drash, and the fourth is the sod. So I will explain. Pshat in Hebrew means literally simple, literal. Right? This is the first layer of the Hebrew Bible, and this is the layer that most of the teachers in churches and synagogues actually teach, and this is the layer where most of us are at right now, right? The simple, literal, you read, right? God so loved the world. Oh, okay, God loved the world, right? You don't ask, you don't go deeper. There's nothing more than that. But the Jewish rabbis knew that there were actually deeper layers and that we need to, in order to get there, we need to ask the right questions, right? And so let me introduce you to the second layer, which is often missed by us, because the second layer, the remez, right? It means simply the grammatical, syntactical. In other words, this layer is only available if you go into the Hebrew and if you ask yourself, how is this author writing this? What stylistic patterns are they using in order to express a deeper meaning, right? In other words, what you need to know about the Hebrew Bible is that it's not just, the author is not going to just talk to you through the content, he's also going to talk to you through the form. The way that the author is writing is often hiding some meaning. Okay, let me say that again. Make sure you write this down, right? The way the author is writing, not just what the author is saying, but the way the author is writing, the stylistic tools that they are using, right, is also carrying a message, often subliminal message. And we're going to study some of this, especially the book of Job. We're going to look at that and Ecclesiastes, right? So the remez you get only if you ask questions about, okay, what's the author, why is the author repeating this word, why is the author writing in this style, why is he switching from poetry to prose back to poetry? This kind of questions will get you to a deeper level, to the more hidden meanings that the author is hiding within the way that he is writing. Everybody understands the second one, the remez? Any questions about the remez? Okay. Now we get deeper layer, the drash. This means to question. This layer is the philosophical layer, okay? And this is the layer we'll be doing a lot of in this class, right? This layer is only accessible if you begin to ponder the text and ask questions about it, about simply what you're seeing there. So for example, you read a text and you can ask yourself, I wonder what the author means by this metaphor. Or I wonder why the author is talking about, we'll study, the Genesis 1 and 2 and 3. We can ask, why is there a tree? What does the tree mean, right? In the Garden of Eden. Or why is there a snake? What is the meaning of that, right? Or you can ask deeper questions about Job, right? Why was God happy with Job at the end, even though Job was cursing him out the whole time, right? So these are the kind of philosophical questions that you need to begin to ask in order to get to this deeper layer, right? So the Bible really will only reveal itself to the degree that you ask questions, right? If you ask no questions, it will remain on the pshat, literal. But the more you ask questions, the more you wrestle with the text, the more you grapple with it, the deeper you go into the deeper layers of meaning which are hidden there, right? The last layer is inaccessible to most of us. It is the prophetic layer. Sod means secret. And this is accessible only in visions and dreams. Now, some of us are prophets. Maybe you will get some of these insights. You know, in Christianity, we say that the Holy Spirit can enlighten us, right? So maybe that, but the Sod is very hidden. It's really the prophetic vision. You cannot, the normal average human being cannot get to this deeper layer, right? Which is the very mystical understanding of the Hebrew Bible, right? Actually, we will study this layer, mystical. This is the mystical layer, right? We will study this layer when we do the Song of Songs, because we know, I'm sure some of you know already, that the Song of Songs is actually a metaphor for the love between God and his people. So there's a deeper love story going on a mystical level in the Song of Songs. So we will be doing some of the Sod, right, in the Song of Songs. And as we go through the class, I will reveal to you, oh, here we are doing remez, here we are doing drash, here we're doing pshat, right? I will kind of throw those words out at you. So learn these 4 Hebrew words. They're very important because they will really be, they are, all of our questions are contained within these 4 layers. And each time you ask a question, you're going deeper. So this is why this reading assignment, I really want to emphasize, right? When you're looking for your questions, you want to look maybe at grammatical, syntactical questions, like why is the author repeating this word? Or why is the author structuring the text like this, right? You can ask such questions. You can also ask philosophical questions, right? Why is God so angry when the people build the tower? What's wrong with the tower, right? Philosophical questions. And some of you can go in the Sod and say, what is the deeper meaning of this, right? What is the mystical meaning? So really it's open. When you do the reading assignment, you can take questions from any of the layers, but you have to have at least 2 questions where you're grappling with the text, right? The last 2 paragraphs, and actually I won't have them. I'm going to have just maybe 1 paragraph. So I'm changing it to 3 paragraphs, 2 questions, and 1 critique. So this would be a moment where you are criticizing the text, where you've understood the text, but you disagree and you're uncomfortable with what is going on. This is also a type of questioning, right? When you are uncomfortable with the text, this is excellent because this will help us go deeper also. So 2 questions, just like where you're wondering, and 1 discomfort, right? Where you're like, I don't like what's going on here, what's happening. Those are the best questions, right? Okay, any questions so far on the reading assignment? Are you getting this one? Okay, now here's the catch. This reading assignment is worth 2 points, but you will only get the 2 points if you are in class that day and if you are on time. This is my way of coercing you to go to class. So you may write this down because the assignment is easy, but getting the point is hard because you actually need to be in the class that day and you need to be on time. Why? Because you will use this reading assignment in the group discussion that will take place in the class at the beginning of each class. We will have about 20 minutes where you will be in groups wrestling over the text together. So this reading assignment is intimately connected to your presence in class. Okay, so be careful, right? Missing class is going to cost you a lot, especially when we get to the next part. Okay, any questions, any issues with this reading assignment? Okay, good. All right, so, third aspect here in the syllabus is the group discussions. This is an easy point, right? This is every day, basically. When we start class, we will start in the groups for about 20 minutes. You will be always in the same group, and you will be simply sharing what you've excavated from the text, sharing your questions, sharing your discomforts, and please responding to each other, right? Don't just sit there, right? When someone is saying something that they're wondering about the text, you in the group try to respond, well, I think the text, this might mean this, and I have a feeling this metaphor means that, and oh, you're uncomfortable, we're here, let me help you feel more comfortable, right? So you need to respond to each other, and so you're going over your reading assignments, you're going over your questions, you're going over your discomforts together, responding to each other, and that is the part of the group discussion. 2 points also there, and again, you only get the 2 points if you are on time. If you're not on time, I'm busy reading your reading assignments during that time. So I'm over there in my Google Drive. I'm not in the classroom, right? So if you're late, you're going to be stuck in the classroom by yourself. And you're not going to get the opportunity to join the group, and you're going to miss the 2 points. It's very important for me, basically, that you're here and on time, right? For you to get this credit. Now, I see a question in the class. Can I post the syllabus in the chat? You're asking me too much. It's it's on Blackboard, Williams. I don't know how to post it in the chat, honestly. So it's on Blackboard. And anyways, you can listen to this again if you need to, because I'm recording it. Does that work, Williams? Are you okay? Yes? Okay, great. All right. The tests. You have a test every week, of course, because it's an intensive. So you're lucky. For the test, I'm going to give you the questions ahead of time, so you won't have a surprise, a bad surprise. So you'll have questions ahead of time, which you, I think, I don't know yet how I'll do it, but I'll give you a few questions to maybe pick from. I think I do that sometimes. I don't have the questions yet because I developed them within the discussion, so I have to wait to see where we go. The test usually is about, I think you have about maybe, I don't know exactly if I'll do 1 or 2 questions, we'll see. But it's an essay question, so you will be answering it. Each question is about a page long, single space, where you are really, the test really, the key to succeeding in the test is the ability to take excellent notes. I mean, if you want to know how to get an A in the class, I will tell you right now, learn to take excellent notes. Whatever is being said in the class, you are typing up, right? So basically, the sign that you're taking good notes is that you're writing nonstop, right? If you're not writing nonstop, you should pause and be like, am I taking good notes? So you're either typing nonstop or writing nonstop, because the class is very fast paced. There's a lot being said. The more detailed your notes, the more substantial your notes, the better your test answer, and the more apt you will be at receiving an A. So in this particular class, you are going to be introduced to European style teaching, right? This is not me sitting there with a PowerPoint. This is me giving you my heart, my substance, right? But I'm going very fast and I'm giving you a lot, right? So you, and we learned this in Europe when we studied there, we learn to write very fast, right? Because there's so much going on. So initially it will be a little hard to get used to, but eventually you'll get there and you'll be able to take pretty fast notes, right? So you want to write down as much as possible so that you can then serve it in the test, right? The test is really not the place to be thinking too much, is the place to be, well, the test will be a reflective question, but based on the notes. So you really want to have solid notes so that you can give me a good answer in the test. Any questions on the test? Okay, tests are due every Saturday night during the night. I want to see the test in the drive when I wake up tomorrow, the next day. So you can do an all-nighter, I don't care, but it has to be there when I get up the next day. And I'm really, really strict with late tests in this particular class because it's going so fast. So actually, yeah, let me do this. Obviously, I take points off late tests, but you have only until the next test to finish the late test. So in other words, you can't accumulate late tests. So you have until, for example, every week you have a test. So if you didn't finish it on Saturday, I need it to be done by next Thursday, right, before the next test. So, and then if you do not do that, I will not accept, right? So you will miss about 14 points. So be careful to stay on point with the test. You have a few days after the test to finish, although you miss points, but I will not accept any more tests when we get to the next test. Am I making sense? Is this making sense? Okay, good. Essays. So this is the fun part. This is the fun part of the class. So essay is really you kind of reflecting on your own journey, on your own experience in the mother's house, right? It's a new house, right? This is probably, you will hear things you have never heard before. And some of us will be uncomfortable with what we hear, or some of us will be thrilled, right? I want you to write me about that, right? Write me about your discomfort, write me about your excitement, write me if you discovered anything new, write me if you feel like you know more about yourself now, anything you want to write about. This is your experience, how you are, your journey, right, in the mother's house. And you write me just kind of a journal, kind of, about your time in this new world, right? This is kind of like a journal, like a tourist journal, right? When you're traveling, you write a journal. It's kind of a traveling class since we're entering this new dimension of the mother's house. So you just write me about anything. Maybe you were struck by a new perspective on God, or you were struck by a new perspective on gender. Tell me about that, right? Tell me also if you're uncomfortable. Tell me if you're happy, thrilled, sad, angry. It's all good, right? And you write me about 1.5 pages, single spaced. And that's due the same day as the test. The only place where I'm super strict with late is the test. And of course, the reading assignments, it's impossible to hand them beyond the class time, right? So the reading assignments, late reading assignments are never accepted. Late tests are accepted until the next test. And then the rest I'm pretty open with. That's the logistics. Any questions about any of the logistical stuff that we talked about?
Um, I have a question about the essay. So you said the essay is due on every test week,
Yeah, you hand it in with the test.
but the syllabus it says 2 points each, total of 6 points. So, but there's oh, okay, okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, three. There's three of them total, 2 points each,
Yeah,
6 points. Yes,
goes by fast.
good. And then the final project we'll talk about in a bit later. Okay, are we good? Shall we take a little break before we go into the introduction of the class? Let's see, maybe it's 4:09. Shall we do 4:15? Is that good? About 6 minutes, is that too much? You guys want to continue? Who wants to continue really fast? Okay, who wants a break? Like a 6 minute break? Okay, all right, we'll take 6 minutes, we'll relax a little bit. Exactly at 4:15, we're gonna start the lecture on the mother's house. So let me pause the recording.